And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks! Fantasy Flight makes a lot of Star Wars games, and now we're taking a look at a two-player game for them called Star Wars Empire vs. Rebellion, a strategy card game for two players. This is not their Star Wars the card game. This is something very different. This is a self-contained game. There's no expansions for it. There probably never will be. In fact, this is a retheming and reworking of an older game Fantasy Flight made called KGB vs. CSI, in which two players played spy agencies trying to outdo each other. This is the same idea. One person is playing the Rebellion, the other person playing the Empire, and you're trying to outdo each other with card play. Think of this almost as two-player blackjack. Let me show you. At the beginning of the game, each player has a resource deck. Now, these resource decks are made up of different types of cards, the Force, Recon, Diplomacy, Military, and they're numbered from 2 to 5 on these cards. And you will be able to customize your resource deck. Your decks are basically identical other than the pictures, but there's 8 different characters, so you will pick 4 of those characters and shuffle those into your deck. And the characters are different, so they give you some differences on how the game is played. Each round of the game is going to be revolving around an event card. You're going to be fighting over this event card. Now, these event cards are pretty important because they give you a certain number of victory points, from 1 to 3 victory points. And the first player who gets 7 victory points is going to win the game. Some of the events have special things that happen in them, but let's take a look at a very basic one here. This one here is worth 1 point. Also, the winner of this one is going to get 2 of these tokens here. So whoever wins this is going to get 1 point and 2 tokens. Now, the object of this game, each round, is to get to as close to this number as possible, have the higher number without going over. You're also allowed to play 4 cards. So here you need to get 13 with 4 cards, 15 with 4 cards, 13 with 3 cards, 7 with 3 cards, etc. Now, on your turn, what you're going to do is you are going to either turn the top card of your deck over and add it in front of you. So here I have Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's worth 6. Then maybe in my next turn, I turn another card over, and Han Solo. I apparently didn't shuffle these in, did I? So now I have 12 points with 3 cards. I can pass, so think of this a little bit as blackjack, but you're also allowed to utilize a card. So let's say I had shuffled my deck. So my second card here now is a 5. Military, I'm at 11. Now my opponent has turned over a Diplomacy, and they've turned over another Diplomacy. They're at 9. Now it's my turn. Now I can pass, or I can exhaust a card and use that card. But I think I'm going to pass. No, I'm not going to pass. I'm going to use my military, so I exhaust it. It's still a value of 5. Notice if I had used Obi-Wan Kenobi, his value goes down to 1. So it's still value of 5, and this says this card, one of your opponent's resource cards, my choice, I get rid of his 5. So then on his turn, he says discard this card or one of your other resource cards of your choice. He doesn't want to do that. So he draws another card. Well, now he's up to 2. And so he has a total of 6. I'm still at a total of 11. I pass. He draws a third card. He is now at a total of 10. So he looks at these. There's really nothing else he can do. So we end the round, and I win. Where he has 10, a 4, 4, and a 2. I have a 6 and a 5, 11, so I'm higher. There's a token in the middle that the loser will have on their side in case there's ever a tie. That person will win a tie. You also, as an action, can spend one of these tokens to unexhaust one of your cards to let you use it again. So the different types of cards, there's the military cards. They let you discard one of your opponent's cards. There are diplomacy cards where you can discard this card or one of your other cards. So if you don't have the right number, you can use that to get rid of one of your cards. Then there are recon cards where you can look at the top 2 cards of either resource deck, yours or your opponent's, discard one and put the other on top. There are the force cards where you can exhaust one resource of either yourself or your opponent. And then there are the special character cards like Han Solo here, who has special abilities. They're all very different. So for example, Han Solo here lets you search your resource deck for a card of your choice and play it. Then shuffle the resource deck. Or Luke Skywalker here, who can discard one of your resource cards of your choice and one of your opponent's resource cards of your choice. The Dark Side IG-88, search either deck for 2 cards. Grand Moff Tarkin, your opponent must discard 2 influence tokens. That's the little tokens here. Now, there's one more thing, and this is a very important thing. Before players play each round, after you reveal the card that you're fighting over in the middle of the table, each player is going to pick a strategy card. This strategy card is revealed at the end of a round, but the strategy cards may affect what happens. For example, one of them, it says if you lose, get 2 influence tokens. If you play this one, next round you can pick which of your opponent's strategy cards are going to play. Here, when this card's revealed, you can add a character resource card from your reserve to your deck. You start with 4 in your deck, but you can pick one of the 4 that you didn't add initially. Like, oh man, we need to get Chewbacca into the deck. The deception, when you do the victory points, if no one goes over, the loser wins. Deception, when you play that, the loser wins rather than the winner. And direct assault, when determining victory, increase your total resource value by 2. So you play one of these and your opponent's trying to guess, like, oh, they'll watch how you play. Like, you might be deliberately losing and they'll think, they must have played the card that makes the lower total win, so I'll play low also. Or maybe you're close enough, like you get to 11 and you have that card that's +2. Well, then you hit jackpot at 13. And that's the way the game is. You're just going to keep going until one player gets 7 points. Each round, you'll be going through your deck and playing different cards, and as the game goes, probably adding a few more characters into your deck, and eventually one player wins. Now, as much as I'm a big fan of the Star Wars theme, I don't know that this game needed it. I was pretty happy with the CIA KGB theme. I liked the whole aspect of spies. I thought that fit this game. Obviously, the theme's not that important since they were able to change it that easily. I don't know that Star Wars brings anything to the table other than maybe players to play this very intriguing little 2-player game. I like it. I mean, I like the concept of blackjack. I don't play blackjack, but I like the concept of it, and I like to see it when it's brought into games, and it's not brought into enough for my taste, but in this one, it works really well. As you sit there and say, I can only play so many cards, I'm trying to get different numbers on my turn, am I going to untap something or tap something, or am I going to play a new card, I'm going to set my deck up, add characters. It's not very strenuous thinking, but there's this whole, what card do I do next? What strategy card did they play? And I like that. It's a back and forth, and after you play a couple times, you have every strategy card memorized, you know most of the cards your opponent may or may not play, and the Star Wars theme is just maybe some icing on the cake for some people. And even if, let's say, you don't like Star Wars, I still wouldn't let that dissuade you from getting this if you're interested in it because of that back and forth. The gameplay on the box here says 60 minutes, but I don't know that I've ever played a game that's gone that long. Unless you're sitting there, I mean, even if it was 7 to 6 and you got all the 1 missions, it's still not that hard. You flip a card, tap a card. But I suppose you could really sit there and drag it out. But most of the games I played have been much quicker, in the line of 30 minutes or less. So while I kind of lament the loss of the original theme, I do think that the game itself is solid. They've changed it up. The game is actually better. The character cards are new. The resource tokens that let you untap things are new. And so the game, I think, plays a little bit better for both of those reasons. The CIA vs. KGB is a little bit longer. This one speeds things up somewhat. And I think the battles or the back and forth card manipulation is more exciting because of those changes. So very entertaining, very small, easily portable, fun for 2 players, Star Wars Empire vs. Rebellion. Dice Tower Judgment, approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.